Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. Welcome back to my channel, My Loverlies. If you've never been here before, thank you so much for clicking on my video. I am so happy you found me. I do so hope that you will like and subscribe before you leave. Become part of the Mama family. Mama's got your back, at least where makeup's concerned, and definitely when that makeup is cheap. Today is True Love Tuesday. We are talking about quite possibly the most adorable couple in all of Hollywood. We're talking about John Krasinski and his wife Emily Blunt. Y'all, so cute. I cannot wait to share this story with you. Before we get started, a very special, very warm welcome to any of those that are new to my channel. I am so incredibly happy that you are here. If you enjoy the content, I do so hope that you will mash that thumbs up button. I hope that you will subscribe if you have not already, and I hope that you will ring my bell, turn on your notifications, so that way, next time I upload a video, you can come right back here, and we can hang out together again. Also, my eye makeup is already done. Y'all, I played with a new brand today. I tried out Cara Beauty. I had never heard of this brand before. I found this palette at Beal's Outlet. It was like $5. It looked super cute, so I was like, okay, let's just go for it. It looks like a little fashion magazine, and then you open it up, and this is your color story. So nice. I am going to play with it just a little bit more before I give you guys a full-on review, but I did make sure to film a TikTok on today's eye look if you're interested. I'll make sure to have the tag for that, as well as all of my other socials, Facebook, Instagram, all that good stuff in the description box below. Guys, if you are not following me on all my other socials, you definitely should. I post fun content every single day, and if you're following me everywhere, you don't have to worry about missing a single moment of it. Also, I will make sure to put a full product list of everything I apply to my face in today's video in the description box as well. Guys, if you have any questions about what I'm using or how I'm using it, all you have to do is leave me a comment and I will get back to you. I don't usually talk too awful much about the products that I'm using. I usually get pretty wrapped up in the story. If you see me looking over in this direction, it is because I am looking at my notes. There are quite a few of them for today's story, so I'm going to assume we're going to be here for just a minute. We usually are for True Love Tuesday. So I hope that you will sit back, get comfy, get cozy, relax, get you a big old glass of something to drink, and let's go ahead and dive into the love story. Emily and John's relationship it's so cute, and it is so genuine to who they are as people. The more I found out about them individually, the more I just fell in love with them as a couple. They're genuinely fantastic freaking people, and their backstories are a little bit more surprising than some. I am so excited to share today's video with you guys. If I had to think of a word to describe them as a couple, it would definitely be adorable. They are so adorable together, almost cutesy. Like, I feel like they're the kind of couple that if you spend too much time around, you kind of get a little bit nauseous, or if not nauseous, a little bit jealous. They just seem like they have that good of a relationship. Oh, so nice. They also don't get spoken about very often, and I think that's definitely by design. They are fiercely protective when it comes to their private lives. They share so much of themselves professionally with the public that when it comes to behind the scenes, they really just they try to keep it for themselves. Their lives are, their relationship is a precious thing to them, and they guard it by any means necessary. As always, I'm going to start talking about each half of the whole first, and then we'll get into them as a couple. We're going to start with Miss Emily. So she was born Emily Olivia Laura Blunt in London on February 23rd, 1983. Her mother, Joanna Mackey, was a former actress as well as an English teacher, while her father, Oliver Simon Peter Blunt, was a barrister. And I wasn't exactly sure what a barrister was. Like, I knew it had to do with a courtroom, but again, I wasn't exactly sure of the job title, so I did look it up, and it's basically a lawyer. It's a type of lawyer that mostly specializes in courtroom advocacy and litigation. So basically just a lawyer, but you never know. You think something is one thing, and then it ends up being something completely different. So her mother had given up acting after she had given birth to Emily and her siblings. Emily is the second oldest out of 4 siblings. So Joanna and Oliver had 4 children altogether, a big, big family. When it came to Emily's formative years, y'all, she had it rough. She describes herself as an awkward and shy child, and she had the worst stutter. Now, to hear her speak now and to watch her on the screen, you would think that there's nothing wrong with the way she speaks. She sounds so eloquent and posh when she speaks, right? But she had a horrific stutter and got bullied for it mercilessly throughout her entire school career. She actually describes the stutter as sharing her body with an intruder, because the stutter was pretty much, it had a mind of its own. There was no way for her to control it. There was no way for her to she couldn't control it, so therefore she felt like she didn't have control of her body, and because of that, it was debilitating. Her childhood was genuinely awful. Kids are mean, we all know this, and when you have something as glaringly wrong with you, like as glaringly obvious as a stutter, like kids are gonna jump on it like white on rice, right? So they were awful to her, and she struggled with this throughout her entire elementary school, and then into middle school. That's when one of her teachers really came in and basically like saved her life. I mean, her professional life anyway. This teacher was trying to figure out how to help her, how to because they had tried everything, y'all. They had tried everything to try to get rid of this stutter. They had tried speech therapy, things like that, and nothing was working. And at this point, Emily was starting to give up a little bit. She didn't know what else to do. She was just tired of it. So this teacher had a brilliant idea, and they actually suggested that Emily go out for school plays and things like that. And the school teacher thought that if Emily could kind of get into a different headspace and maybe kind of separate herself from the stutter and separate herself from her anxiety, maybe pretend to be somebody else long enough that she could kind of gain a little bit of control over the stutter. And y'all, it freaking worked. Her stutter was at its most severe between the ages of around 7 to 14. And at this point, this is when the kids are at their worst. Like, life is just not good for her at this point in time. This teacher comes in and convinces her to like go out for plays. And while it doesn't happen just instantly, over time, it really made the biggest difference. And eventually, she was able to pretty much fully overcome her stutter. Now, while she can overcome it, she still has the stutter. It rears its ugly head anytime she gets stressed, or if she's like experiencing really heavy emotions, kind of like pops back up. But for the most part, it's pretty much under control. During this time, of course, she found not only her voice, like her literal voice, but she also discovered her love of acting and theater. And I can completely understand why she's so enamored with it, because it gave her a new lease on life. My brother, he used to have a speech impediment. He had a lisp, and I remember him having to go to speech therapy and things like that. And I remember kids being so mean to him for absolutely no reason. Like, he just couldn't control it. So I just feel so bad for her. But I feel like because she went through such difficulties as a child, that has kept her so humble, and it has kept her so kind. Because all these horror stories we hear about all of these celebrities that are just genuinely awful people. I combed the internet for any kind of dirty laundry or unsavory business that she might have, and I couldn't find a single quote of anybody saying anything but amazing things about both Emily and John. So that's really, really nice to know. Little fun fact though, did you know that her older sister Felicity is actually married to Stanley Tucci? I had no freaking idea. That led me down a little bit of a rabbit hole, and I looked into Felicity and Stanley's love story. That might be who we talk about next week, because theirs it's delightful. It's delicious in all the best ways. However, Emily is the one that we're talking about today. And baby, once she got that stutter under control, the world was suddenly wide open to her. So she, of course, discovers that she really enjoys acting. She really enjoys being up on stage. And by the time it comes to her high school graduation, she decides that she's done with school. She already knows what she wants to do, and she's just going to go for it. And at the age of 18, she decides to pursue her acting career and really try to make a go of it. And of course, she goes on to become incredibly successful. Her career has, I mean, she's got some real highlights in there. Some of her best known roles include Edge of Tomorrow, which she won a bunch of awards for. That was an incredible performance. Also, she does a lot of like fun movies too. She was in Mary Poppins Returns. I loved that movie so very much. Of course, it didn't quite compare to the original with Julie Andrews, but I mean, it's hard to compare to a queen. So we love her anyway. Into the Woods. She's been in a ton of stuff. Oppenheimer, most recently. She was in Oppenheimer. She got a lot of really great reviews for that one as well. I haven't watched Oppenheimer. It's one of those movies that I feel like would just give me way too much anxiety. The world's not in the best kind of place right now. I don't need to go watch that movie. If you've watched it though, please let me know what you thought about it in the comments. I opted to go see the Barbie movie. I opted to go see Barbie, and I thought it was super cute. So there's that. But she's just been in a bunch of different things. Her career has spanned decades at this point, and I don't see an end to it in sight, really. Like, she's kind of at the top of her game at the moment. She's won quite a few awards during her career. She has won a Golden Globe. She's been nominated for an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress. She's won a Screen Actors Guild Award. She's won 4 British Academy Film Awards, and then Forbes, they ranked her as one of the highest paid actresses in the world in 2020. Not bad for an awkward, shy little girl with a stutter. And again, Emily never forgot her beginnings. She's an advocate for children struggling with speech impediments and stutters, and has worked very closely with the American Institute for Stuttering since 2006. She helps children overcome stuttering through educational resources and to raise awareness of the realities of life with the condition, right? Because she got lucky and she was able to overcome hers, but not everybody is. She's also on the board of directors for the Institute, and once a year she hosts a gala to raise funds for scholarships for both children and adults to get access to speech therapy and anything that they might need pertaining to said condition. Now, I just love when I learn new things about celebrities I think I know. And when I was looking into Emily's past loves and her dating history, only one thing came up, and so she was really not a serial dater. She wasn't out there, she wasn't on the scene at all. She is definitely a relationship girly, and for some reason, I had never known that she was in a very serious relationship with none other than Michael Bublé. For some reason, it just completely came out of left field for me. But y'all, I learned so much about this man, Michael, while researching, and as much as I love him, I love his voice, I love his work, but I found out that he was really a little bit of a douche back in the day. Now, her relationship with Michael lasted 3 years, and it ended because of infidelity. Definitely not on Emily's part, but certainly on Michael's, and it just kind of like, it exploded spectacularly. Emily met Michael in 2005 backstage at one of Michael's concerts. Now, before they had even met, Emily was a huge fan of Michael's. She loved his work. She loved his voice, as we all do. And, she's got a little bit of celebrity to her name. So she was invited backstage to, the VIP section to meet Michael. Now, they meet, they instantly hit it off, and they begin dating. And at the beginning of their relationship, everything was fantastic. Emily, she had just gotten done filming, I believe she had just gotten done filming, or she was in the process of filming The Devil Wears Prada. That was what really put Emily on the map. That's where we all pretty much, it's the first time we remember seeing her. And after that, her celebrity kind of grew a little bit, and I think Michael really had a little bit of an issue with that, because she was no longer able to kind of cater to his every whim, and she was gone a lot more, and she wasn't as available as she had been before. So during the course of their relationship, her star kind of rises, and while it doesn't necessarily eclipse his during that time, the playing field was certainly a little bit more level, and Michael really didn't like that. He has admitted in multiple different interviews that he realizes that he was a jerk. He was a jerk back in the day, and it's so hard to see because, his persona now is so... It's like funny, and he's kind of self-depreciating, kind of makes fun of himself just a little bit. You remember with all those like Bubble or Buble, the soda, the drink commercials. That's what I think of when I think of Michael Bublé. I don't know. He just doesn't seem like that kind of person. But apparently he was a little bit of a diva and had quite a bit of a temper. And even Emily, she says that their breakup was really, really complicated because they're walking red carpets together. They're living together at this point. They had bought an apartment in Toronto. So like they're genuinely doing life together at this point. And all of a sudden, all of this news comes out about Michael and this other woman, and it genuinely just shatters Emily's world, right? She is fully dead on in love with this man. But Emily also says that it's a complicated situation because she was gone so often. She really just didn't have the time to devote to their relationship the way that she would have liked to. So while she doesn't agree with it, she understands it a little bit. And Michael even wrote a song for her during this time. He wrote the song entitled Everything for Emily, and he said that he wrote it about experiencing the great happiness of true love, right? And then all of a sudden, just like, I don't know, a couple of months after the song comes out, this woman comes forward and spills all of the dirty deeds about the ongoing, like long-term ongoing affair she's had with Michael for almost 10 years. The woman comes forward, and not only does she come forward, but she comes forward with proof. She has pictures of Michael laying in her bed shirtless, like, definitely sleeping, like he's not just visiting and saying hi, things like that. So she comes with proof, and she goes to the media, she gets her 10 minutes of fame, and completely destroys two people's lives in the process. Now, while I feel so horrible for Emily in that situation, I'm glad that she was able to find out eventually before really committing herself to this man, committing her life to this man, because nobody wants to marry a cheater, right? So, of course, Emily is like, she's done. She packs her bag, and then very shortly after this woman comes forward about the affair, Emily is like done, and both of their reps released statements saying that they are no longer a couple. Now, of course, Emily is completely and totally devastated by this. Like, this was the man that she had thought was going to be her forever. And then to find out that not only was pretty much their entire relationship a lie, but to find out about it through, the media instead of like the actual perpetrator themselves, it's kind of freaking horrific. So she's definitely struggling with some serious trauma at the moment, and certainly not looking to date anyone. Now, as for Michael, of course, the breakup was devastating for him as well. He has openly admitted that yes, he cheated, and yes, he knows that he was an awful person and human being, and if he had it to go back and do over, he certainly would make different decisions. However, that's not quite how the world works, and he just kind of had to live with the consequences of his actions. Now, fortunately for both Michael and Emily, they were both able to go on and find the real true loves of their lives. This all happened when they were still pretty young. Michael went on to marry a woman named Luisana Lopalato in 2011, and then Emily, of course, went on to meet John in 2008. As interesting as Emily's backstory is, I find that John's is just as much, if not more so. He's just, first of all, can we just get out of the way the fact that this man is completely and totally 1000% my freaking type. This man, he is tall, he's attractive, he's incredibly smart, which was something I love to learn. Like, I love when people are like actually driven educationally. It's so sexy to me, right? He's incredibly smart. He's driven. He is successful in his own right. Like, he's just kind of freaking fantastic. So he was born John Burke Krasinski, October 20th, 1979. That makes him around 4 years older than Miss Emily. He was born at St. Elizabeth's Hospital in the Brighton neighborhood of Boston, Massachusetts. His mother, Mary Claire Doyle, was a nurse, while his father, Ronald Krasinski, was an internist. And again, had no idea what that profession was either, so I had to look it up, and it's basically just a doctor. The actual definition is a medical professional who specializes in adult medicine, so basically a doctor. If he's just a doctor, just tell me he's a freaking doctor. Anyway, John is the youngest of 3 siblings. He has 2 older brothers. So his mother was, I feel for her, she was drowning in a sea of testosterone. She got 3 boys and a husband to take care of. I feel her pain. I really, really do. John was raised in a pretty traditional Catholic household in the suburb of Newton, Massachusetts. John made his stage debut in the 6th grade when he played Daddy Warbucks in his school's adaptation of Annie the Musical, and of course instantly fell in love with it. He continued to dabble in theater throughout the rest of his school career until the end of high school when he graduated. He continued to dabble in theater throughout the rest of his school career until he graduated high school in 1997. Now, after high school, instead of just going straight into college, he decided to take just a little bit of a break. So he took a year and he ran off to Costa Rica, of all places, and decided that he was just gonna relax for a minute. High school had been a lot, but then he's gonna go to college, and that's gonna be a lot too. So he's just gonna take a little bit of a breather. He decides to go to Costa Rica, and he gets a job there teaching English as a foreign language, and just basically has the time of his life. But this is where I think it becomes a defining point of his character. Did you know John was literally a freaking hero? I was like, after I learned this, I was like, oh, it just made me love him that much more. So while John is in Costa Rica, he just so happens to be at the beach one day, and he sees a woman drowning. He sees a woman get sucked out by the riptide, and he doesn't even pause. He just jumps into action. He dives in and he saves this woman and brings her back to shore, and it's just like, oh, he's tall, dark, and handsome, and a hero, and sweet and smart, and just like, there's nothing bad about this human being at all. So the woman he saved was drowning when she was caught in a riptide at a beach in Manuel Antonio National Park. Now, after his adventures in Costa Rica, John returned to the States. He had had enough. He had seen enough. It was time to return to school. Can you guess what school this man got into? Because when I heard it, I was like, no freaking way. This man returns to America, and he very quickly enters into Brown University. Brown University is one of like the oldest schools in the States. It is incredibly prestigious, and you have to be so smart to even be considered for admittance, right? So it's a private Ivy League school in Providence, Rhode Island. It is the 7th oldest institution of higher education in the United States, as well as being the first college in the United States to codify its charter that admission and instruction of students was to be equal regardless of religion. While at Brown, he studied English and playwriting. He graduated with honors, of course, in 2001. Yet somehow, throughout this entire thing, he still somehow finds the time to help coach a youth baseball team. He coached the basketball team, at Gordon School in East Providence, Rhode Island. So not only is he tall, handsome, smart, sexy, kind, a hero. He also freaking loves kids. Like, this guy is like a perfect 10 across the board, and I'm just a little bit jealous of Emily. After graduating from Brown, he moved to New York City, and he starts instantly trying to break in to the industry, right? Acting was something that he was very invested in. It was something that he really wanted to do, and he got really lucky and started to get castings really quickly. Like, it wasn't something that he really had to try very hard for at all. He appeared in a bunch of commercials. He like had guest spots on a bunch of different television shows. He did readings of off-Broadway plays, all while working his butt off as a waiter. So while the castings are coming pretty easily, of course, they're not paying very well. So you have this Brown educated man trying to break into the entertainment business, and he's freaking busting tables for a living. Thankfully, he didn't have to do this for too awful long. He did it for just a couple of years until finally getting his big break when he was cast as Jim Halpert for The Office. You guys remember that? I know The Office is such an iconic show. I have it on DVD. Mr. Hubby and I watch it all the time. It's like one of the funniest sitcoms of all time. It's just so freaking good. And then Jim and Pam, like, one of the best love stories like in television history. Love it so very much. So he graduated from college in 2001 and then had to kind of struggle doing small parts and waiting tables for around 3 years until 2004, and that's when he was cast on The Office. Now, a couple of fun facts about his kind of role in that series. Did you know that in order for him to prepare for that role, he actually took a road trip to Scranton, Pennsylvania, which is where the show was kind of based out of, and he actually went to a paper company and interviewed different employees, things like that, just to kind of try to get a vibe, like trying to get a feel for their vibe and what it was like to actually work at a paper company. On top of that, he is actually the one who shot all of the footage, for the opening credits, the opening scenes for The Office, where it shows you all of like the kind of landscapes of Scranton. John is the one that actually filmed all of that. So super fun. He just was a big part of that show. He actually starred in every single episode of the series, and he directed quite a few of them as well. When it comes to his dating life, y'all, there's really not much to it either. He was definitely a bachelor. I can't hate on him too bad. Because he was incredibly attractive and knew it. He was a little bit of a player, definitely a flirt. A lot of his co-stars from The Office say that he was like the absolute best to flirt with on set, because he's so witty and just charming. It was just great to talk with him. But he was definitely not interested in settling down at all, and kind of got around a little bit. But he was only ever connected publicly to 2 different women. The first of which being one of his co-stars from The Office, Rashida Jones. Now, believe it or not, they actually had a relationship before she was ever cast on The Office. They met, hit it off beforehand, and just kind of like dated. But again, it wasn't anything super serious. It was never really meant to go anywhere. They were just kind of having fun together. And then once they kind of broke up, they remained friends, because again, how can you not like John? So they remained friends. The breakup was very amicable, and John is actually the one who suggested her for the role of Karen on The Office. And then, of course, they had chemistry while they were filming, because, they had been a couple. And Rashida said it was an absolute blast. You wouldn't think working with an ex-boyfriend would be any fun, but she had a blast working on the show. And, of course, they were love interests on the show as well, but it was never weird or awkward in any way. Now, the second woman that John had a little bit of a dalliance with was Renee Zellweger. For some reason, it just is not, she is not someone I would pick for him or even peg him to be interested in. Just seems like they don't run in the same circles. They met while they were working together on a movie called Leatherheads in 2007. So they were on location in North Carolina filming for this movie, and they were kind of spotted out. They had gone to a performance together, and they went out for dinner and coffee afterwards. And then again, because they're being followed by the paparazzi, they were followed back to their hotel, and they were kind of like, pictures were taken of them going back to the hotel together. Now, again, it's all conjecture. We don't know for sure. Raine never said anything about it, and of course, John never said anything about it. But it's assumed that they kind of were hooking up just a little bit. But people were a little bit outraged, because I feel so bad for Miss Raine, because she is so unlucky in love. I really do want to do a True Love Tuesday just on her and her story, because it just seems like she just can't catch a break. But people were a little bit outraged about them kind of hooking up and being together, because Raine was quite a bit older than John at that point. I think John was 27 and Raine was 38. So there was like an 11-year age difference. People were worried that she was maybe taking advantage of him just a little bit. I highly doubt that, though. I think John was all for it. He was 100% on board. And I do think even if he was 11 years younger than her, it's not like he was a teenager and she was like a grown adult. He was a 27-year-old man. Like, he was very capable of making his own decisions. And if he decided that, you know, he wanted to mess around with Miss Raine, then good for her. You know what I mean? He's all kinds of sexy, and she's absolutely stunning. There's nothing wrong with it at all, as long as both parties are consenting. Now, of course, their fling was never meant to be anything long term, and as soon as filming was over, so was their dalliance. Now we move on to John and Emily, the best part of today's entire video. I'm so excited. Y'all, they're so freaking cute. Do you know that they met completely by chance? They didn't work together. There wasn't anything. I think fate had a direct hand in them finding each other. They found each other at exactly the right moment in time. They were at the right place, right time, right everything. Everything just kind of fell into place for them. And it's so rare for that kind of thing to happen. There is a universe in which John and Emily never happened, and it's kind of freaking heartbreaking. So they initially met at a New York City restaurant. They met in June of 2008. Now, at this point, they're actually out with other people. Now, neither one of them are in a relationship at that point. Again, John definitely wasn't looking for anything serious. He is very much enjoying his bachelor lifestyle. And Emily is very freshly out of her breakup with Michael. She broke up with Michael early 2008, and this is June. So she's just a couple months out of that, and she is definitely not looking for a relationship either. However, Emily is at this restaurant. She is sitting down eating with one of her friends, a man by the name of Gary. In struts John, and he is quickly followed by Justin Theroux, and they're there to eat together. And if you don't know who Justin Theroux is, he is Jennifer Aniston's ex-husband. He was pretty popular there for just a brief moment in time. He was in the movie he did with Jennifer Aniston and Paul Rudd called Wanderlust. Really, really funny movie. He's actually a super funny dude, but I think after he divorced Jennifer, his career just kind of like fell to the wayside, and he kind of became part of the background. Don't hear very much about him nowadays, but he is very good friends with John. Now, John just so happened to know Gary, who Emily was dining with that night, and Gary says, "Oh, look, my friend John just walked in." Kind of waves at John, and John walks over to their table. Now, of course, it doesn't matter how popular you are or how famous you get. Deep inside, Emily still felt like that shy, awkward little girl, and you have this incredibly attractive, man walking up to the table, and she just turns into an instant ball of nerves. She's literally losing her crap silently. She's screaming in her head. John walks up to them, says his hellos to Gary, and then introduces himself to Emily. And Emily, she's just like, to her credit, she just plays it very cool. She plays it very cool, calm, and collected. And John lays eyes on her for the very first time, and he's just like, he's instantly smitten. You have Emily, who is sitting there absolutely quaking in her boots. And then you have John, who is just standing at their table, and he's charming and he's witty and he's making her laugh. And before you know it, he's been standing at the table for 20 freaking minutes. Justin completely forgotten in the background, sadly yet again. And all John has eyes for, the only person John has eyes for, is Emily. Now, of course, Emily is just as attracted to John as he is to her. However, she's a little bit reluctant. They have this dinner, right? And they each go their separate ways because, of course, they can't stand at the table all night. They go their separate ways. And the very next day, John calls Gary and asks for Emily's phone number. Well, John gets Emily's phone number and he proceeds to ask her out. And again, Emily is very fresh off of a breakup. She's definitely not looking for anything, and tells John this. She's like, I'm super flattered. I think that you're really, really attractive. I'm just not in a place right now where I feel like a relationship would do either one of us any good. And John's like, all right, but he doesn't stop. Like, John has got his eye on the prize. And while he is not pushy, he is not demanding in any way, he is incredibly persistent. The next few weeks, John continuously checks in on Emily. And, each time he kind of calls her, he's like, are you ready yet? Like, are you thinking that maybe you would like to go on a date? Like what's going on here? And again, not being pushy or demanding, but definitely making his intentions clear. He is not going to stop until she agrees to go out with him. And by this point, Emily is incredibly, she's flattered, right? She's flattered, and her resistance is waning. So eventually, she's like, okay, you know what? Yes, I'm attracted to him. I want to do it any freaking way. I don't know why I'm denying myself. I'm just going to do it. So the next time John calls, she picks up the phone and she's like, when and where? But also the fact that she is just coming off of this very messy, very public breakup with Michael, they decide that they're going to treat their relationship very, very differently. They are going to be as incognito as they possibly can. So for the first date, instead of them going out somewhere public and, like having like a public dinner date, something like that, they decide to meet up at John's apartment, and they just kind of have a movie night, really. They order a pizza, and again, they are incredibly protective of their relationship and very private when it comes to details regarding their relationship. So not a bunch is known about their first date. However, it was confirmed that they met at John's apartment, and there was pizza involved, and they just kind of chilled. And of course, once they sat down and really started talking to each other and started to really get to know each other, like the love happened almost instantly, right? They had so much in common. There was a connection there that was completely and totally undeniable. And again, John is not looking for anything serious. He's going into this thinking, oh, this is just going to be a fun little hookup situation, right? Not really knowing what's going to happen, but not intending for it to become a serious relationship. And then you have Emily, who's thinking pretty much the same thing. Like, why not? What could it hurt? It'll at least be a little bit of fun. And right after that first date, they both knew that this was something that could be a forever kind of moment. They shared a similar sense of humor. The conversation flowed effortlessly. Like, it just was easy. And especially for Emily, after the relationship that she had just been in and how hard it had been to try and make that work, it was so refreshing to be with someone who didn't need so much, who didn't need to be coddled so much, who didn't need so much time and attention. And it really was John who catered to Emily. Like, it was instant. He was such a gentleman, really. And that's something that she said in multiple interviews. He was such a gentleman. And while John was drawn to her, John was just drawn to her in every way, shape, or form. But for Emily, it was his kindness and his quiet strength that really drew her to him, and she knew without a shadow of a doubt that this was going to be her husband. Emily and John, they dated for about a year. Like I said, after that first date, they pretty much knew that this was going into relationship territory. So they didn't even try to fight it. They hung out as much as they could for that entire year. It was around a year, I think 11 months, pretty much 10 months, I'm sorry. And by August of 2009, they were engaged. Now, they did talk just a little bit about how they got engaged. Again, details are few and far between. But through about 1,000,001 different articles that I combed through, I was able to get pretty much the gist of the engagement story. So they've been dating for 10 months, and Emily is at home, and at this point, they're pretty much living together. I'm not sure if it was John's house or Emily's, but they're pretty much staying together every night. Like, there's more than a couple of drawers at each one of their houses, that kind of thing. So they pretty much moved in together, and John calls Emily up, and he's like, listen, do you want to have a date night? Do you want to eat in? And we'll just, like, lay on the couch. We'll, like, Netflix and chill, basically. She was like, yeah, of course. And then all of a sudden, like, women's intuition kicks in, and it goes into, like, DEFCON 5. Like, red alert, something's going on. This is it. So Emily is kind of thinking, because, you know, she's got a little bit of a feeling that she knew that a proposal was coming at some point, but somehow, some way, she just knew that this night could be the night. So she's running around the house, and John had asked her to fix supper. So she's like, okay, I got to cook for this man. And apparently she's actually a really fantastic cook. And she goes on Food Network, and she goes to Ina Garten, and she was like, what would this man want to eat? Because he doesn't tell her what he wants to eat, right? He's just like, will you fix supper? So she's trying to figure out, well, what kind of dish does everybody like? And she settles on roast chicken. She settles on Ina Garten's recipe for roast chicken. And this is super, super ironic, because actually she ends up fixing Ina Garten's engagement chicken, which is one of her most popular recipes. It's fantastic. I've made it 1,000,001 different times. And if that doesn't get a man to propose to you, I don't know what else would. But of course, everything worked beautifully. So she makes this gorgeous roast chicken. John comes over, they have supper together, and of course, he gets down on one knee and he proposes to her. Throughout this entire ordeal, though, Emily is again shaking in her freaking boots. She is so nervous. She doesn't know what to do with herself. And she's just like hoping and praying that she doesn't do anything between now and then to screw it up. Everything goes exactly according to plan. They did say that the whole thing was very, very casual. There was no big grand gesture, anything like that. When it came to their relationship, everything was just like, it was comfortable. And I think that is the biggest draw for both John and Emily. It's just comfortable. It's easy and it's comforting and all those wonderful, warm emotions. And so when he proposed to her, she was just like, of course. It's like, it was already a foregone conclusion. John actually, a couple years later, told Ellen DeGeneres on her talk show, he said, when I met Emily, I was so nervous. I was like, oh God, I think I'm going to fall in love with this woman. It was one of those things where as soon as you meet someone, you just kind of know. So even though John wasn't looking for anything serious, nor was Emily, they knew that, like, this was it. This was the end of the line. Now, for her part, Emily was drawn to his kindness. She was, like I said, she was drawn to his quiet strength. And she said John really changed her life in a million wonderful ways. But best of all was how supportive he was. She said, when I feel the support I get from him, I feel invincible. I know there's always someone behind me on my good days and someone in front of me on the bad ones. And I think that is so incredibly eloquent and so well said, because that's what any good partnership is, right? Like, it's not always 50-50. There's this woman I follow. She is a marriage coach. And I follow her on TikTok because I feel like your marriage is one of those things that you should never stop working on. Like, I feel like the minute people get complacent and they get too comfortable in their relationship and stop trying to be the best person they can for their partner, I feel like that's when things start to go downhill. She says that relationships are never 50-50. They might be 60-40, they might be 80-20, but they're never 50-50. She said the biggest part of a relationship is each half of the whole being willing to carry the load. Sometimes your partner's going to come home and he's going to be tired after a long day at work, and he's not going to be able to give the kids a bath, or he's not going to be able to do bedtime stories. And you've got to be willing to jump in and say, baby, I got you, go to bed, you go rest. And then there's days that he's going to come home from a long day at work and you're going to be sick and you're going to be tired and you can't cook dinner and you can't do bedtime. And even though he just got home from a long day at work, that man better be willing to say, you know what, baby, go get in bed, go rest, I'll cook dinner and I'll take care of the kids. If you can't count on your partner, then what is the freaking point? And with them, they could count on each other. The support was there. The willingness to try was there. And I think that's why their relationship is so incredibly successful. Their engagement lasted for around 11 months. They got engaged. And then I think in July of 2010, Emily and John were finally getting married. Their ceremony was held at George Clooney's villa on Lake Como in Italy. John is friends with George apparently, but even so, when George had offered the use of his villa for their wedding venue, John was just like, no, it's okay. Like, he thought it was joking, right? Like, he wouldn't accept, because like, why would George Clooney really be offering me his villa, right? But around the fourth time that George offered, John noticed that George was starting to get, his feelings were starting to get just a little bit hurt. So of course he accepted. I'll pop up a picture of the villa. It's freaking spectacular. It is so beautiful. And it's super famous as well. I actually have a few fun facts about this villa, because there was a big kerfuffle about it not too long ago, because somehow, some way, the media had kind of like gotten the impression that George was putting the villa up for sale. Now, George bought the villa, I want to say in 2007. He bought it, and he bought it for like 7-point-something million. And if he had put it up for sale in 2023, it would have gone for like 120 something. Like, it would have been the biggest celebrity real estate deal in freaking history. It's insane. So apparently the villa had been owned by the Heinz family, you know, like the ketchup, like that food royalty kind of thing. They had owned the villa in the first place, and then they sold it, and George purchased it. And it is called, it's the name of the villa, it's known as Villa Oleandra. And parts of Ocean 12 were actually filmed there. And George has also hosted Meghan Markle and Prince Harry. He's hosted Jennifer Aniston, Matt Damon, and then Jennifer Lopez and Ben Affleck as well. So it's kind of a celebrity, if you know kind of destination. Anyway, Emily ended up walking down the aisle at George Clooney's Lake Como villa Italian mansion thing. She looked freaking stunning. She wore a custom-made gown by Marchesa, and while flashing her 3-carat round diamond and platinum ring from, of course, Neil Lane. The first few years of their marriage were spent learning each other. They were spent learning each other and creating a strong, stable foundation in which to build a family, right? Because if the foundation sucks, everything else built on top of it is going to be a jiggly mess, right? So they really worked on their foundation. Once they thought that they, like them as a pair, were strong enough to be able to carry the weight of a family, that's when they started bringing babies into the picture. The first addition to their family was their daughter Hazel Grace. She was born on February 16th, 2004, with John announcing her birth all over social media. He was very much a proud papa. And parenthood was something both John and Emily had been looking forward to, with both anticipation and trepidation. Like, they were equal parts scared and elated. And they both admit that adding a child to the mix completely changed everything. You can never be prepared for everything. Like, you can think you know what you're doing, and you can be as prepared as possible. But when it comes to parenthood, nothing really prepares you for it. Like, there's really nothing to do. Like, there's nothing for it but to do it. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, yeah, it's something you have to experience to really know. And they were not ready. They were not ready for the chaos having a child would bring. And though it was difficult and hard to adjust to at first, it's the single greatest joy in their lives, as it is for most parents. It's terrifying being responsible for another human life, but then once you kind of get used to that responsibility, it becomes such a beautiful, wonderful freaking thing. And then of course Emily took to motherhood like a fish to water. Like, she absolutely excelled at it. And then John was just kind of like left riding her coattails, trying to figure it out as he went. John said, "I think when you commit your life to anything like that, it changes everything. All of the cliches are true." And in the first couple of months of new parenthood, they were absolutely just bedraggled, right? They were just losing their freaking minds. But as soon as they got the hang of it, things got a whole lot better. So much better, in fact, that just a few years later, they decided to do it all over again. They welcomed the fourth and final addition to this point in time to their family in July of 2016. Their daughter, Violet, was born on July 4th, 2016, and again, John took to social media to absolutely rave about how beautiful and perfect his new baby was. By 2017, John and Emily had been together going on like 9 years at this point, and yet they still had not gotten the chance to work together. And this was something that they had always wanted to do, and it was something they always planned on doing. But also, they had to be smart about it, because you hear so many stories of couples working together and it just kind of like destroying their relationship. So they wanted to pick the perfect project to work together on, and that opportunity came with A Quiet Place. Now, if you haven't seen that movie, there is A Quiet Place 1 and A Quiet Place 2, but that movie it's genuinely both horrifying and just like, you can't look away from the screen. I am not a horror movie person. I do not like things that bring me anxiety, anything like that, unless it's like a roller coaster or something like that. But to just sit down and watch a horror movie, not my kind of thing. My son and my husband, however, freaking love them. So of course I got roped into watching the movie, and it was phenomenal. Emily carried that movie on her back the entire way. Well, John was fantastic in it. It was Emily's emotive performance that really just like made you feel like you were in it. That movie, there are certain points in that movie that are genuinely freaking terrifying. In March of 2017, they announced that they were finally going to be working on a project together. In March of 2017, they announced that they were finally going to be working on a project together. And of course, the film was titled A Quiet Place. Y'all, they said that working on this film together did nothing but wonderful freaking things for their relationship. John very much agrees with me in the fact that Emily carried the emotional experience of that film on her, like on the back of her character. He said the air in the room changes when she starts doing what she does. It's so honest and so pure and so powerful. It's like a superpower that she can just unlock and do so specifically with not many attempts. It's just like it just kind of comes naturally to her. John also said that while he loves acting, his wife is just so far out of his league, it's kind of terrifying. And I think also throughout the experience of them working together, I think John also learned quite a bit. He learned a different level of respect. I feel like when you are with someone all day, every day, and you're just kind of like performing the menial everyday, like day-to-day tasks, who's going to wash the dishes, who's going to cook dinner, who's going to put the kids to bed, that kind of thing, you can kind of forget what makes them so special, And when they started working together on this film, John was brought face to face with what really does make Emily so spectacular, especially as an actress. If you haven't seen A Quiet Place, you really should go see that movie. Even if you're not into horror movies, her performance in that movie is just, it's epic. It's stunning. It's epic. She's flawless in that freaking movie. And it's just so good. Cause like the whole movie, she's just trying to protect her kids. Cause I don't want to give too much away, but it's fantastic. And her performance in that movie, like there's a reason that she won awards for it. It was freaking phenomenal. Emily actually ended up winning the Best Supporting Actress at the Screen Actors Guild Awards. She won it. Like, she absolutely stole the show with her performance in A Quiet Place. And then, of course, y'all, the movie did so freaking well. Did you know, actually, that John not only directed that movie, but he also co-wrote it. So you have John, who is putting kind of his like heart and soul into this movie. It's really a passion project of his. And then he's got his wife, who has really made this movie just come alive, right? So it really was a team effort, and it was such an accomplishment for not only them individually, but for them as a couple. The movie did so well, in fact, that 2 years later in July, they announced that they were going to be doing the sequel. So they were going to do A Quiet Place Part 2. And it came out during the pandemic, or just after the pandemic, and y'all, it was just as freaking good as the first one. The second one is a little bit different of a storyline, and John isn't in the movie so much. He's more of kind of like a little bit more in the background, but it is so good. And when it premiered in May of 2021, it absolutely just like it topped the charts. It actually became the first movie in the United States to pass $100 million in ticket sales during the COVID pandemic. So it was like one of the highest, I think it was the highest grossing film released during that whole pandemic period. So I mean, that's quite an accomplishment. While working together was genuinely a magical experience for both of them, I wouldn't hold my breath for them to do it again anytime soon. Emily said that it just got to be really intense. Every conversation, even day-to-day tasks, everything started to really center around the movie, and it was like the worst case of bringing your work home with you like ever. Just felt like she couldn't escape it there at the end, and she was just glad that it was over. Either way, if they decide not to work together again in the future, I think they're definitely leaving off on a very, very high note. I definitely think it's something to certainly be proud of. Y'all, they're going to be celebrating their 14-year wedding anniversary in July of this year, and quite honestly, I think they'll make it another 14 easy peasy. They genuinely seem like they're so perfect together. I feel like they were made for each other, and I just think they're so freaking cute. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video as much as I did. This is today's finished look. What do we think? Do we like it? Do we love it? Let me know in the comments below. I am so thankful that you decided to come and hang out with me today. If you did enjoy today's video, please don't forget to give it a big old thumbs up before you leave. As always, no filters, no fancy lighting. It is just me sitting in front of my camera telling you guys an epic love story, hoping you guys are enjoying what I'm doing. And until next time, stay safe, take care of yourselves, and remember, you're important. Bye.